All right. So today is February 26th, so it's a Thursday. So I recorded last Thursday. So okay. So yeah, I mean anyway, like these days the weeks are shorter because Thursday, Friday, I mean Thursday afternoon I'm doing something, but Thursday is half day and Friday is like full day gone for teaching. So it's only three and a half days of work. So the yeah, I mean this week was okay. I mean I have a lot of stuff to do, but on my plate and a lot of stuff that is requires my attention. But yeah, especially at these kinds of times is when I procrastinate a lot or find like new projects or things like that. So okay, so the WhatsApp paper that we are planning to do is really like, I mean, it's a mental strain because it's all on me and like others are like my collaborators waiting for me to do the analysis. And I did some analysis early and found some results, and they were very interesting. And but then realized there was a bug and redid the analysis and the results are not so interesting. And so that's really like, I mean, I spent a lot of time just trying to see if those previous results were correct, and if the bug is actually hoping the bug is wrong and like whatever, the bug is right or whatever. But yeah, the old results don't hold anymore. So that was a big yeah. Took, already I'm procrastinating a lot, and now with this sort of feeling that, oh yeah, I had this really cool result, but that is gone now. It just makes it so much harder to work on it. But again, like, it's at this stage where I really don't have an option. Like I really have to deliver these. So I and then it's also, I mean, from a career perspective, like I really have to have those papers out by the time I submit my materials, at least out. Like, I'm publishing, like, okay, that's a different story. But then there's also that paper again is I think I talked about this last week. It's like 3 years of work, and so there's so much in there, and like just framing, like okay, what are the papers in here? So at an abstract level, when we thought of the project, we said, oh yeah, there are like 4 or 5 papers in here. But now the problem is there is so much in results in there, like there's so many results, but and you have to resist the temptation to put all of them in there because nobody will read that, that stuff. So you have to curate. But there are, because you put so much effort into this process of data collection, but also annotation and analysis, some of the results, if you don't put them in a paper, like they will be lost. Like, I don't know, some very trivial stuff. Like, so how often do people respond to each other, and how does that depend on what group type you are in? Let's say this is a result. This is a not so interesting. I mean, it's not a groundbreaking result. So it's something that we have to remove potentially, but I don't want to remove it. Like, and I keep doing these sorts of analysis, which are like niche, like might be interesting for like 5 people, whatever, like small number. Anyway, so there's also that aspect that is really like, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to come up with that framing and say, okay, these 5 papers are actually two, like, you have to focus on these two, because otherwise what is going to happen is like those 5 will be 5 lower quality, or you can try to like really pick the ones that are best and get these two higher quality. Like, I don't know if the higher quality will come, but like just thinking about that framing and what needs to be picked to get to those 1 or 2 really good papers, I think that's where I am really stuck. The Yeah, so I all that's also on me. So that's also a big headache. Like that takes a lot of effort. And then I was also doing so there's also a lot of qualitative data that we got from these annotators. And so we are also annotating the annotator. So basically, qualitatively, like finding themes and then going back and forth, and that requires like some, I mean, at least now, thanks to LLMs for everything these days, it becomes easier, like the qualitative part. So I do some analysis and then give it to it, and it does some of the analysis and scales it up and things like that. The main problem there is just even, I mean, sitting down and doing the qualitative analysis thoroughly so that the LLM can do the rest. So yeah, I was doing that. That took like a day. I mean, even the basic stuff there, like figuring out Pydantic and like making sure the JSON is well formatted, like whatever you have a structure and you're getting results in a structure and all of that stuff. So that took some time. That was Monday. Tuesday was again like, I mean, this week I really had to work on this paper, but this because I have so much work to do, I just procrastinate. And suddenly someone emailed me, or like I was in a meeting with someone, and they said, "Oh, let's," and I'm very interested in working with this Netflix data. And I was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I have some Netflix data." So we have some Netflix data from some panel that we were working with at MIT, and so now I was suddenly interested for no reason in Netflix data, and I was trying to do some analysis on some existing Netflix data, and yeah, again, like that took like, I don't know, half a day. Is just exploring that, like, thinking about what we can do with that type of Netflix data and things like that. Is that a good use of my time? Probably not. Like I don't think anything will come out of that. But again, like that's procrastination, or at least it's I spent it on something that is productive in a sense. Like okay, I'm looking at some data and not like just watching some YouTube videos. So yeah, that was Tuesday, and Wednesday was also back on this WhatsApp data. So I just had to force myself and said, okay, you have to do this today because I was meeting my collaborator today, and yeah, I did some analysis and like wrote some of those findings and like tried to yeah condense those and say, okay, these are the four main results that we're going to focus on. So that's the other. Yeah, that was on Wednesday, and so now today. I had a class, and then I was yeah, okay. Also on Tuesday I was just doing some. So we have this ChatGPT data that is very rich, very new. I think, and not many people have that apart from the companies, and that has a lot of like really. I mean, these are not papers, but these are like really interesting tidbits of like, okay, I don't know. I mean, so if you're doing some age analysis, age estimation, ChatGPT is doing some age estimation. So we have some data from that. I was just looking at that. That's maybe 1 or 2 hours. Then I was manually browsing through it, like to the data set just to see what is in there. And there's a lot of like ChatGPT referring to people as my love or brother or things like that, sir, or things like that. Like and it differs a lot across countries, which is also a very interesting thing. Like I again, like so what? Uh, I'm trying to just so that high level analysis. Okay, you find this pattern. Now you can give it to AI and say, okay, I see this pattern. Like develop this kind of script. Take this keyword list from here and like do this. So that AI can do, but then it will spit out a lot of results, and then I have to think about that. And I am trying to write something, but okay, who cares? So there's these sorts of back and forth about that. And like, okay, does this even matter? But maybe it matters for someone, like, things like that. Like, so maybe it's an interesting finding. And a lot of like things about like pushing myself to write blog post a week at least is is that like, there are a lot of ideas, but a lot of them real are good like quickly, like you can say, oh, I write about what I will be working on for the rest of the year, right? Like, so that's the blog post that I'm thinking of. Okay, I sit down and I have a mental thought like, okay, these are three categories and these are the four projects in each category that I'll be working on. But then once you put that on paper, it seems like, okay, they're disconnected. They don't make sense on paper. Like, so now okay, I wrote an initial draft, but I I really don't like it. Like, so I have to sit down and like maybe, I don't know, spend 1, 2 hours on it, but that's hard. Like, so there's like three or four of those that where there are these initial drafts. So there's another on AI data centers. There's a lot of like pushback now that's coming, and I have some ideas on like I looked at some of the data that people, the companies or like the VC types are pushing, saying, "Oh, data centers are great." I want to write something that says that it's actually, yeah, it's super. It's really hard to say this is a binary or data centers are good or not. And there's a very nice argument to make, like, okay, at this point, okay, data centers create jobs. That's not true. Absolutely not. There's already evidence for that. And the data that shows that they create jobs is shit. Then data centers are bad for other reasons, like they use water or things like that. That's not a valid argument. Data centers increase electricity prices. That's maybe correct, right? Like, but it's also very subjective. I think I wrote about like how data centers will help build the grid and things. So you really can, yeah, there's a bunch of those sorts of points where you can say points 1, 2, 3, 4, and good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, right? Like, so there's a sort of nuance piece that we can write. But again, like, you start that and you go like, okay, you're making it's also not good or bad. It's like 75% good. Like this thing with the electricity prices, right? Data centers, are they increasing electricity prices? We don't know. Like, it's hard to tell. Roughly, they might be increasing, but that's because everyone is building infrastructure, and that infrastructure will pay off in like 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. So you don't know, like, if me paying $20 a month more will be beneficial because 20 years from now I don't have to pay that. So how do you write that? Like, and that's just yeah. Anyway, so there's these sorts of things, and that's good. Like, I mean, that's the importance of writing as thinking and so on. So yeah, so I have to prepare for the class tomorrow. I usually do on Thursday afternoon, but today afternoon I was busy with other things. So tomorrow morning is going to be a bit busy, but yeah, the idea is that um, yeah, the I will be doing this social networks class. So tomorrow, which is an area that I know somewhat, especially the technical parts of social networks. These are clustering coefficients, triangles, and networks, and things like that. And yeah, so that's it for this week. And yeah, I'll see you next week.